Hi, welcome to Empowerment and Illness. I'm your host, Gwen, and I wanted to talk a little bit today about my story with lupus. When I was 25 years old, life was great, and I had a boyfriend and a relationship. I was working, had a good job, had, paid all my bills, had enough to save, had a bunch of friends, was in the church, I was in the choir, I was also on the hospitality committee. I had a dog who I absolutely adored. It's a Cocker Spaniel mix named Prince. Family was great, so everything was going great. By the time I turned 26, I started feeling fatigue, and it just grew, just got a little bit stronger. And since I was doing so much in my life, I thought maybe I need to pull back a little bit. So wasn't in the church as much, like I wasn't doing the hospitality stuff so much, wasn't going to the Wednesday prayer services or Sunday school. So I just kind of pulled back. I wasn't hanging out with my friends so much because I was so tired. But just got worse. Everything was starting to get worse. Fatigue was stronger. Had headaches. I was getting to the point where I couldn't eat. So my boyfriend at the time would take me to the emergency room. I spent a lot of time in a bunch of emergency rooms. I was getting, they're doing tests. They can't find anything. Had a low-grade fever. They thought I had some type of infection. So they put me on antibiotics, and then they send you home, tell you to go see your doctor. Well, I didn't have a doctor because I wasn't sick, hadn't been sick. I went and I found this doctor, and when I went to him, he didn't know what was going on with me. And by this time, I was really sick. I was losing a bunch of weight. I already weighed about 105 at the time. So I didn't have much weight to lose. But I went to see him every single day. Every single day. He wanted me to come in because he said he needed to see me and run tests. So I wouldn't go into the waiting area with all the other patients. He'd have me go to the back. I'd have to go to the back of the where he would come in, like a different entrance. And the room that they put me in, it was just like an office room, but it had a bed in there. And I just stayed in there. And his assistant, she would come in and she would tell me, she said, "You are the sickest person I've ever seen." She said, "I've never seen anybody as sick as you." And I said, "I just want to know what it is, and I want so we can fix it." But like I said, I went every day. They gave me a liter of fluid and nothing. And he asked me one day, he said, "Do you have to use the restroom?" And I said, "No, but I could go and try." So I did. I went in there and I tried, but nothing but blood. And I told him, I freaked out. I'm like, "I don't think I want to do that again." So he's like, "Okay." He's like, "I'm sorry, but I don't know what's wrong." Now, hindsight, I thought he was doing everything he could possibly think of to save me, and I'm sure that's what he was doing. I don't know why he didn't send me to a hospital and put me in the hospital. I don't know why he didn't do that. But I did get fluids every day, and he was giving me medications for every symptom that I had. So by then, I developed Bell palsy. So my face is sort of distorted. And my boyfriend at the time was, "We got to get something done." So I'm taking all this medication for all the symptoms. My fever's gone up now to where it's like 101 every day. I'm getting fluids, and there's nothing in sight. I'm being tested for everything. childhood diseases, communicable diseases, just diseases you think of. I mean, they were just testing for everything, and everything came back negative. So he picked me up literally from my apartment and took me to my sister's. And so she looked at me and she wrote down all of my symptoms. And she went and she found this doctor. And so she made an appointment for me. I go to see him. He was a rheumatologist. And my first day meeting him, he grabbed my hand. At the time, I couldn't see him because my face was so distorted. It was swollen and twisted. I say twisted because of the Bell palsy. And he said, "We are going to take care of you." So his office was across the street from the hospital. And they literally put me in a wheelchair and rolled me across the street. And I was admitted. And that was the very first time I've ever been in the hospital. I was tired and sick and worried because I didn't know what was wrong. And I'm like, they're going to find it. But he was so nice. He gave me a bunch of medication. The one that I remember was steroids because I was losing so much weight. And I took that medication and it made me hungry. And I wanted some fried catfish. And I asked him, "Is it okay if I eat anything?" And he said yes. He told the nurses whatever she wants, make sure she gets. Well, what I didn't know is that the family came. And I mean, I come from a big family. It's 9 of us. So the majority of my family came. And I was so excited because, I just wanted to see them. But I was so sick. But I found out he told my mom to call the family in because he didn't think that I was going to make it past the night. I didn't know that. All I knew was that I'm sick, I'm tired, I got all these issues going on, and I was so afraid for the kids to see my face. I had some nephews that my sister, they had children, and it was so distorted. I just didn't want to scare them, and I wouldn't let them look at me. But it was like the craziest thing. And I remember praying to God. I asked him if I could just ask for one thing. I didn't mind dying. I wasn't afraid of that. I was actually ready for that. But if he could just do one thing for me, and that was to make me feel just a little bit better so that I won't be this sick and die. I felt so sick that I just didn't want to be that sick. And I know that was the weirdest thing to ask, but I closed my eyes and I prayed so hard. I was to the point where I couldn't even lift my head up. But I got better. I started to get a little bit better. And I was happy about that. And the medication, steroids, prednisone, it was a really high dosage, and they gave me terrible nightmares. And these were some horrible nightmares. I'd wake up screaming. And I spent a lot of time in the hospital. But my kidneys were damaged. My liver was damaged. There was something happened to where my ears looked like cauliflower ears. They were huge, and I don't know why my ears were like that. But it was just like lupus was rampant. And again, I haven't found out the name yet. He's just still doing tests. And when nurses come in, they have all these tubes that they want. I call them vampires. I still call them vampires today. So they came in to take the blood, and they are just taking tubes and tubes of blood. And I said, "I hope you leave me some." And then of course they laugh. But at some point he decided to come in, got the test, and then he says, "I have a name for you." And I'm like, "Okay." And he said that I had lupus. I'm like, Lupus. And I told him, I don't do drugs. And he's like, huh? I said, I don't do drugs. I can't have lupus. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, I have a sister. My sister was diagnosed with lupus. And she was experimenting with drugs, and that's how she got it. And he laughed. What we found out is that my sister, again, she was experimenting, and then she had a nosebleed to where it just wouldn't stop. Her platelet count dropped. So because of that, she, had the nose bleeding, and it was so bad, and she was hospitalized. And then, of course, once they did all the tests, they found out she had lupus. We didn't know anything about it, meaning our family didn't know anything about it. Nobody put two and two together because, like I said, I don't do drugs, I don't drink, don't do any of that. So we didn't know a whole lot about it. We just chalked it off as that's what it was. But then we did a little bit more research, and my lupus was or is aggressive. It is a beast. And it just was active no matter what we do, no matter what, at the time he was trying to find the best cocktail for it, I guess you would call it. And he put me on hydroxychloroquine or Plaquenil. And so they tried to find the right combination for that. And then he continued. So I started to get better. And I was excited that I was getting better. I was so excited. Then I got out of the hospital. And then I stayed with my sister. So my apartment that I lived in, because they didn't know if I was going to make it or not, they, broke my lease because I was so sick. The apartment complex said that it was okay. My church, they paid all the bills that I needed, because when I was sick, they were paying for my electric bill, my phone bill, any of my bills when I was in the hospital, they paid for. So just say a note to the people who are making, you're paying your tithes and offering. My local church, my church took care of me. So all my tithes and my offering, they used that. And I was so grateful. I was so grateful that I had a church family that actually took care of me. Also, by the time I stayed with my sister, because I had been so independent, when you're sick with this illness, I had to basically learn how to walk or get strength. So I would go outside, or I try to. I go to the door. My goal was to walk from the front door to like where the street was, walk down the sidewalk. And I would try to do that, and it took me a long time to get there. There were days where I could just go to the door, and I can't. I had to go back. And then the next day, I'll try to wait, and I'll push myself just a little bit longer so that I can make it. And then, some days it was hard. Some days I was out of breath. Some days it's like my body just couldn't make it. And my mom would tell me, she's like, you're going to make it. You are going to make it. I have faith. And I was excited that, she believed, I believed we were going to get this thing. And then the day that I made it, I cried because I was so excited. I am so independent, and I wanted to make sure that I got my independence back. Well, I ended up going back to the doctor to get a checkup, and he had this conversation with me. He's like, you are young, you're 27 years old, so your life was just beginning. I was telling him my life was wonderful. I had a boyfriend, I have friends, I'm active in the church, I got my dog, my job, I got all of that. And he said, you are going to have to let some of this stuff go. Because your life, he said, you need to live your life as an 80-year-old man. And that just shocked me. He basically told me that I had to let myself go. My 27-year-old, I had to, basically, she died. Because the life that I had, everything that I was doing, I wasn't able to do that. I wasn't going to feel that or be that person, because this basically changed my life. At the time, I didn't understand what he was saying. Today, I totally understand what he's saying. But it took me a while, and it shocked me, and I went through a grieving process. I was angry. I never asked the question, why me? That just never popped up, because I mean, why not me? But I was angry because everything that I had, it's like it was gone. You know, I couldn't work, so I ended up losing my job. My boyfriend, he said, he came to me and he was honest. He said, you know, I thought we had a future. I just can't stay here and watch you die. I can't be around and just watch you wither away and die. And I'm looking at him thinking, we were good, things supposed to be a certain kind of way, and that just wasn't the case. And so he said he was leaving. So job is gone, the boyfriend is gone, and so my family is still my support system, and my friends. You know, I had a bunch of friends from church. I had a lot of people. When I was better or got better to where I can go back to church, they treated me like I had leprosy. There were some folks, and there was this one girl, she had just had a baby, because when I was when she was pregnant, you know, I think I was just getting sick or something like that. But she brought a baby, I saw it, and she was like, oh, get away from me. Don't touch my baby. And I was trying to explain to her, actually, I am the one who should be pulling myself away back from you, because I'm the one that has a compromised immune system, and I shouldn't be, you know, out here. And the way she treated me, I felt so bad. And I told my mom, I'm like, you know what, I just don't want to go back to church. I don't want to be around people. And she was telling me about their ignorance. You know, people don't understand what they don't know. So I get it. But I lost friends. Lost a lot of friends. And I was just alone. And I cried a lot. I cried a whole lot. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to pick it up. And I'm just going to go and just be me and do me. So, and that's what I've been doing. I struggled trying to get my balance for not being able to do a whole lot of going out or partying at the time, because I still needed to build my strength. But I did. And I guess around, I want to say it probably took me a couple of years to get acclimated. When I say acclimated, I had my house by then. I went and got me a house, moved out from my sister, and I had my mom with me. So I'm up, I'm working, you know, I got back on my feet. I've managed to go through whatever it is that I needed to go through. We found the right cocktail, and so that was fine. But once I noticed having lupus and being on prednisone and Plaquenil, you know, medications have their side effects. And that doctor, the one that I was going to see every day, he put me on a bunch of medication, and that's why I was having liver issues, because my liver was trying to filter all that medication. So what the doctor that I was seeing, what he did, he basically just took all that away and just gradually fixed things as we could. I was seeing a kidney specialist at the time. So everything we were just doing, I wasn't on, never had to do dialysis or anything like that. But he was just monitoring. And so the liver got better, the kidneys got better, everything was better. And I still would have flares. I still had a lot of that at the time. And this was, like I said, I was on my own in my own house by then, which I was so glad that I could actually live, and I guess you could call it live a normal life. So I tell people at the beginning of it, the rockiness that you go through when you're first diagnosed, lupus is a beast. It is. It is a beast. And that's why they call us warriors. You have to be strong. Well, that's with anything that we go through. You just do it. You don't think about it. You just do it. So I try to talk to people about it. I try to give them advice. I don't tell anybody about what medications to take and what not to take. Medications I've used: methotrexate, Celebrex, Imuran, Benlysta. I've been on the majority of them, and I have to say, none of them worked. I either had a reaction to it, or it just wasn't working. What has worked for me is prednisone and Plaquenil. And they keep telling me prednisone is not good to be on for a long period of time. And that may be true, but I'm still on it, and I'm still going, and I'm still surviving. So I've had lupus for over 30 years now, and I've had prednisone and Plaquenil from day one. I can't explain it. All I know is that I'm still here and it's still working, and I'm still functioning. I have a life now. I have a child. I'm married. I have a job. I run around like I am as normal as the next person. Now, in between all of this, I've had surgeries, and I've had a bunch of surgeries because of prednisone, because my bones deteriorated. My joints deteriorated. So it's a combination of lupus and medication. I just tell people it's lupus and medication. So when I was little, I know I'm about to tell my age, but I used to want to be bionic. I wanted to be like Steve Austin and Jamie Summers. I love that. I just wanted to be that. So I used to pray, if I could just be bionic, break something and then get some bionic parts. Well, you need to be careful what you wish for, because I have had a bilateral hip replacement. So my hips are artificial. One of my shoulders artificial. I have a partial knee replacement and both of my ankles. So I consider myself bionic. I call myself bionic. And I can tell you when the rain is coming. I can feel it. But other than that, I still go. Like I said, I've been in the hospital many times. I've gone through the whole. I just say I went through a lot. And my family tells me that I'm strong. I don't look at it that way. All I look at is that I got stuff to do. I need to go and do stuff. What stuff? I don't know. I just got stuff to do. I got to get up. I can't lay around. I can't be down. I don't like to be depressed. Depression is huge. I want to say this. Depression is huge. I went through so much depression when he told me to go from 27 and live like an 80-year-old man. I went through a lot. And I'm trying to figure out, how do you tell somebody that, like, what am I supposed to do? Am I not supposed to move around? I'm not supposed to, like, I don't know what to do. So to me, there are days, today, lupus can knock me down. Lupus can knock the wind out of me. But lupus cannot defeat me. I refuse to be defeated. Just recently, around Christmas, before Christmas, I was in the hospital. I had bronchitis that turned into pneumonia. And then I got COVID on top of lupus. And then I had some type of urinary tract infection. So I'm borderline sepsis. And I'm put in the hospital. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, when am I going to get out? Because I got things to do. I will, like I said, I don't get depressed. And I had the insurance advocacy person. She called and she's checking on me. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm doing great. And she said, are you depressed? And I said, no, I'm not doing that. And she's like, okay. I said, no, I don't do that. Now, don't get me wrong. I do cry. I cry a lot. I get down. Like I said, in my opinion, lupus, pneumonia, COVID, any sickness that I get, it can knock me down. It can knock the wind out of me. But I refuse to give up. I refuse to give up. That's all that I can say. I will not. In our first episode, I mentioned that I wanted to start a segment to where I'm calling Healing Heartbeats. You get 3 minutes. 3 minutes to cry, scream, cuss, talk, do whatever it is you need to do to get that depression out, to get those feelings out. Because when you're dealing with a chronic illness, it's like I keep saying, it's a beast. So at some point, you just need to think about it and feel those feelings. That's why I said I felt bad in the hospital. I feel that I know I'm sick. I know I got lupus. Like, I know these things in my head. But in my heart, I just can't give up. I don't want to. I don't want to give up. And I'm not going to. So all I'm asking is that what we need to do is that you take a moment every day and you hone it in to where you get 3 minutes to just feel, to scream, to cry, to just feel and get that nastiness out. Get that bitterness out. Get all that negativity out so that you can move on. You cannot wallow in sorrow too long. It'll take hold of you and it won't let go. And once it gets you, it's hard to get away from it. It's really hard to get away from it. So I encourage you, I encourage everyone, 3 minutes. You get to feel, set a timer if you need to. But do not let depression, negative energy, don't let that get into your head and in your body and your soul. Because it will take hold and it wants to stay. And it's hard to get it out. So block it. Whatever your mechanism is, get it out. So, thank you. Thank you all very much for listening to Empowerment in Illness. This is my story. And on our next episode, I will share more of my journey. And I will introduce a guest. So I'll have my first guest on this show. I am super excited to start this podcast. This is something I've been wanting to do for a very long time. So I just ask you all to bear with me. I'm excited. I'm enjoying it. I'm going to get folks on, and I hope that you enjoy the show. As always, keep it going. We won't stop. Thank you.